What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to show you how I take simple drums that sound like this and turn it into this. Let's get it. Welcome to my first ever video, guys. So I'm going to run you through real quick. I always love videos where they walk you through how they do things. I'm going to try not to talk too much. Also, keep in mind, very amateur. Learn most of this stuff by watching YouTube as well, and I wanted to try and put it all in a place where it was easy to digest, and there's not a lot of talking, and I won't be showing a bunch of stuff. I just want you guys to see what I'm doing. So, here's my setup right now. Notice I've got a main kick and a kick sample into a kick bus, a main snare and a snare sample into a snare bus, got my 3 toms into a toms bus. I have an overhead track, a mono track, a rooms track. I've got all of this then bussed into a drum core bus. Along with that, I have a shells crush bus, like parallel compression, and I have parallel compression for my ambience. So my overheads, my mono, and my rooms are all going to my ambience crush, and all my shells are going to my shells crush. So we can process them a little bit differently. Also, all of that then is going to my drum master bus, and I also have a very small reverb send for my snare and for my toms. And lastly, I've got one other thing to show you that's kind of the secret sauce for me. Let's get into it. All right, let's start with the main kick. This is my main kick sound. Pretty good. I actually really enjoy it. Now behind that, I've layered a kick sample. That's what it sounds like on its own. Right, kind of like wet meat or punching a cardboard box, but it has a nice click to it. So you put them together, that's what you get. There is no processing on my kick track, on my kick sample track, or surprisingly, even my kick bus. I just don't need it there. All right, let's move on to the snare. This is my main snare sound. Pretty good, actually. I really like it. And then behind that, I layered this snare sample. That's the sample by itself. High-pitched and pingy, just the way I like it for pop punk. And together, it sounds like this. And once again, nothing on my main snare track, nothing on my snare sample track, and nothing on my snare bus. Just don't feel like I need it. And I'm going to do a bunch of processing later on. All right, next up is toms. I have all 3 of the toms in the kit going to separate tracks, although for this instance, they're all leveled pretty well. I didn't do any kind of separate processing on any of them, and they go straight to this toms bus. And this is what they sound like without any processing at all. You know, not bad at all. They sound pretty decent. I'm going to loop this track so you can hear in the background. So, for this, I'm finally getting to some processing. The first thing I'm adding is a little bit of Pro Q4, right? We'll pull that up. Just cutting off some of that low boom, taking out some of the mud here at about 143 hertz, taking out a little bit of the boxiness at 457 hertz, and add a little dynamic cut up here at about 5600, just to catch some of those things. So this is what it sounds like with that on. Just tamed a little bit. Very subtle. If you have headphones on, you can hear a little bit better. From there, I'm throwing on a little FG1, or FG401. Once again, just to pull it together a little bit. I'm not doing much. You know, my attack is at a 4, my release is at a 4. My makeup gain's cranked just a little bit to match some of the volume. I'm at a 2-to-1 ratio, and I'm barely pulling that threshold up just to get between 1 and 2 dBs of gain reduction, just to kind of make it cohesive. And then from there, we'll bring up Saturn. Once again, Saturn's also not doing much. It's one band, and I'm just driving it at the worm tape setting, and I'm driving it about 20%. My mix is about 70%. Everything else is kind of where it should be. And my dynamics are at negative 0.3, but just a little bit of thickness. You can hear it there, right? A little bit of boominess. That's all I want out of my toms. All right, let's take a look at our overheads. This is what they sound like with no processing at all. Once again, not bad. There's a lot of bleed from the snare and the kick that I'm going to try and cut out a little bit. So we hop into our first plugin. Once again, a little bit of Pro Q4. Turn that on. All we did was cut out everything below 180. Pretty steep curve there. A little bit of dip right here. Get rid of some of that boxiness there. Then once again, a little dynamic up here to kind of catch some of those harsh pieces of the cymbals. A little high-end boost to give a little bit of brightness. Next, we move to my Pro C3, little compression. Right, not much. You know, negative 17 dB. I'm catching barely any up here. But I want to just kind of pull it all together. Once again, make it cohesive. Nothing crazy at all. We're going to throw some Saturn on there again. Once again, it is a single band warm tape style. My dynamics are staying stock. My mix is at about 40%. My level's up just a dB. And my drive is at 15. Just give it some thickness. Off. And on, right? Just a little bit of bloominess. That's it. After that, we're going to throw on JST clip. Oversampling is on. My mix is at 100%. My trim is 0. And I'm pushing about 2 dB for my clipper. Brings it up just a little bit. Just shaving some of those peaks. Now we have a mono track that is featured in some of the GGD libraries. And it's basically just like a central microphone that catches similar things to like the overhead in the room. It's a little bit flatter. I had to crank the volume here because it's naturally very quiet. And I have it normally sitting around negative 5 dB, but I had to crank it to 6 just so you could hear it better. So here's what it sounds like by itself. But to make it a little bit better, we're going to throw some Saturn on here. Right, my settings are, it's at a warm tape, mixed at about 70%. My drive's about 31%. I'm just boosting it a single level, but it's going to give it a little bit of body. There's it on. Just a little bit. You can hear it in there. I'm throwing on my clipper. 100% mix. My trim's at negative 2.3. Oversampling is on. I'm actually pushing 3.4 dBs. And this is what it sounds like. It's so quiet that I also put a limiter on it. It's adding about 6.9, and it's not even touching those peaks. Here it is on. See? Nothing. Volume, yes, but that's basically it. All right, the last of our main pieces is our room. This is what our room sounds like by itself. Pretty good, right? It's a solid sounding room. I really enjoy it. But we're going to zhuzh it up, as they say. So, throwing on some Pro Q4. It's again cutting out a lot of that low. Everything from basically 140 down. A couple of dips in here. A dynamic dip up here. Catch some of those high parts, especially that snap of that snare. I wanted to try and keep it a little bit out of the rooms. Then we're going to throw on FG401 again. Similar to the way we did the other one. It's pushing a little bit harder though. And by a little bit I mean a lot harder, because I want it to kind of crush the rooms a little. I like to smash them a little bit. So my makeup gain's kind of cranked a little bit to make up for how much we pulled back on the threshold. My attack's at 3. My release is cranked at 6. My ratio's up at 4. And I'm pulling anywhere between 5 and 7 dB of gain reduction, right? So without and with it on. It's compressing the crap out of it, and it's making it cohesive again. After that, we have Saturn again. I bet you're going to know what it's going to do. It's going to be small, and it's going to just give it a little bit of body again. My mix is going to be at 75%. My drive's only at 20%. I'm on warm tape setting again, and my level's boosted 1. Here it is before, and here it is after. Just a little bit of body. And lastly, it's going to become very familiar. My JST clip. Right? My mix is actually pulled back to 80%. My trim's all the way at negative 6 dB. Oversampling is on, and I'm pushing 3.1 dB. All right, now that that's done, let's listen to our drum core bus with all of our processing on and see how it sounded before we add any of our special stuff. Already it sounds pretty good. Like, I'm not mad about this at all, but it doesn't cut through the mix the way I want it to. And there's only one thing I have on this entire thing. I threw on some BBC FG Gray. Right, a little bit of volume, cohesiveness. My attack's about 30 seconds. My release is set to auto. Threshold's pulled up barely. I'm getting between 1 and 2 at the peak for gain reduction. I'm on 2.1 for ratio. My high pass filter is cranked actually up to 80 hertz, so we're not compressing anything below that. All right, let's talk about parallel compression. So I'm running a Shells Crush bus. If you look over here, I've got 3 things running to it. My kick bus is going to it. It's going at about negative 18 dB. That's how much it's sending. My snare bus is sending negative 10 dB. My toms are sending negative 12. And that's it for my Shells Crush, right? Now, currently it's pulled down to negative 17.5 dB. You know, you use a crush just to blend it underneath. I'll crank it up so you can hear what it sounds like on its own. This is what my Shells Crush sounds like without anything on it, right? That's just getting a little bit more volume to it. So let's really crush this thing now. First thing we have in here is a little bit of FG Stress, the classic. 6.1 ratio, high pass filter detector's on, but I'm hitting input at 6.5, or 6.7 I guess. My attack is at 4.7, my release is at 2, and then get this thing on, it's gonna crush it. Right, we're getting, hear that? We're getting about 10 to 12 dB of gain reduction. Really kind of crush it in the best way. And then, shocking, we're gonna throw some Saturn on there for some body. I'm set to warm tape again. My mix is at 60%. My dynamics are scaled back a tiny bit to negative 0.3. My drive's at 15%. My level's at +1. Once again, just a little bit of body. And then you called it. JST clip. Oversampling is on. Mix is at 100. Trim's at negative 4. And I'm at 3.2 dB. Really kind of brings that punch out. All right, next we have my Ambience Crush. This is just my overheads, my mono, my room. So I wanted to have parallel compression, but I wanted to process my shells and my overheads and my cymbals and stuff separately. So my overheads are sending negative 18 dB. My mono is sending negative 14, and my room is sending negative 10. Okay? And this is what it sounds like without any processing. It's set at negative 15.5 right now, so I'll crank it for you. Right, that's with any processing at all. So first thing we're throwing on there is, once again, FG401. We're going to crush it the same way. So my attack is at 2. My release is at 6. Quite a bit of makeup gain to make up that volume. Ratio is at 4. And then let's see what this sounds like. Oh, yeah. So we're barely getting 1 dB of gain reduction, but it's crushing it just enough. And then Saturn again. Mix is at 60%. Warm tape setting. Dynamics are scaled back to negative 0.3. My drive's at 15. My level's at +1. And really catch some body in there. All right, just a little bit. And then throwing on some JST clip. Oversampling is on. Mix at 100. Trims at negative 5. Sitting at 3.2. Once again, just boost it just a little bit. Clip it off just a tiny bit of those peaks. Nothing crazy. All right, let's look at our drum reverb send. We're sending a few pieces of the kit to this, but not very much is going into it. So my snare is sent at negative 14 dB. My toms are sent at negative 14. My overheads, my mono, my rooms are all set at negative 30. I want just a tiny bit of it in that reverb, so it creates a full room sound and it makes it sound more cohesive and as a single kit. So this is without any processing. Right, mostly snare. A little bit of cymbals, and then a little bit of toms. So the first thing we have on this is some Pro Q4, cutting out everything below 200 hertz and everything above 8700 hertz basically, but much more gentle slope. And then a dynamic band right here at about 3000, just kind of catching that snare. You can see it hit right there. can get trippy. We're throwing on Valhalla Room. I'll crank the volume on this track a little so you can hear better. Mix is at 100%, and this is going to get real weird. Right? Really, really reverby. That's okay, because it's going to be blended way lower than this in the mix. And then, saturation knob. If you get a chance to pick this up, you should. It's free, and it's great. You know, it creates extra harmonics. Keeping it low. Hear the difference? Just a really good saturation. It's a one knob kind of fix. It's pretty awesome. All right. Let's see what everything sounds like turned on with all the processing that I have so far that I've shown you. It's a pretty good sound. Not bad at all. You can hear that snare really pop because of that reverb send. All right, so kind of controversial. I did something with this track that I've never done before, but it really worked out well. So I'm using GGD's The Downbeat, great kit. I'm using the preset All Turned Up, and I love the way it sounds. The ecosystem they built inside of their standalone app is great, much better than the Contact setup. I hope they kind of port some of the other libraries to it. But anyways, I noticed that when I routed out all of my tracks, I didn't have the same kind of cohesive vibe. I was missing a lot of that compression and parallel compression and the stuff they had baked into it. And so what I ended up doing was taking my MIDI and exporting one straight file of just the drums as one track. And then I'm layering that underneath the rest of my drums. And it really adds some body and weight to it. So this is before. Sounds good. But when I layer in the downbeat track, do you notice the difference? It's crazy how much difference. Once again, by doing this, it also seems to have changed. All right, let's look at the final drum master bus. So, you just heard what it sounded like. Pretty good, all things considered. First thing we're throwing on here is some BBC FG Gray. I've pulled it all together. Barely getting 1 dB of gain reduction. At 30 seconds, my releases at 0.6. Threshold's really coming up. 2.1 ratio. High pass filters on at 60 hertz. So it sounds good. Make sure that it all sounds cohesive and coming together, especially with that downbeat single track lace through there. I want to bring them together as one. Then, some more fun, throwing on some bomb. Really helps with some punch. Really dry. My intensity is 0 on the fat setting. And I'm pushing about 2.84. Listen to the difference. Crazy. I'm also throwing some extra EQ. Look at the boost and top end. A little boost here and there, and then stuff down here in the bottom. Reverb was boosting it. Almost 3 dB. Next we have some saturation knobs. This one's the crazy one, guys, because I'm at 10 to 1. Listen to the change. Subtle, but it's really hard. Keep it high. All right, so that's how I get my drums from sounding super thin and kind of empty to filling everything up, and it sounds great in a full mix. I'll give you a little preview of this. See what it sounds like in the full mix. All right, guys. Thank you so much for stopping in with me today and hanging out. Hopefully you guys like it. If you do, like and subscribe, I guess. I've never said that before. I don't know how often I'll be saying it, but have a good day, guys. Peace.